Hi everyone. The Father is looking for true worshippers. In John chapter 4 we read, "A time is coming and has now come when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks." God is spirit and his worshippers must worship in spirit and in truth. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, what is a true worshipper? And am I the kind of worshipper the Father seeks? Let's take a look. In John chapter 4 we read about Jesus' encounter with the Samaritan woman at Jacob's well. They have a conversation about water, and Jesus uses the physical example of water to explain a greater reality, the spiritual truth of eternal life. She thinks he's talking about an endless supply of water, but of course Jesus is talking about living water that he longs to give anyone who asks him. Jesus then asks the Samaritan woman to fetch her husband and to return to him. After claiming she has no husband, Jesus exposes the truth that she's already had 5 husbands and that the man she was presently with wasn't her husband. The woman realizes that she is speaking to a spiritual person and changes the subject and starts talking about where the Samaritans worship and where the Jews worship. Jesus then explains that the time has come for the true worshippers to worship the Father in spirit and in truth. So what does Jesus mean with true worshippers? In our local garden center there are all sorts of plants and flowers you can buy, and over the years I've been amazed at how some of the plants you can get there aren't even real. Some of the synthetically made flowers look so real that you have to smell them and touch them to know whether they are genuine or not. Clearly the same can be the case with people who claim to be Christians and look like the real deal, but if you were able to look beyond the surface, like Jesus did with the Samaritan woman, you would see that they are not. Jesus not only exposed the truth about the Samaritan woman's immoral life, but also showed her that worship is not a temporary activity at a particular place, but about a life sanctified by God and lived for God. When Jesus describes himself as the true bread from heaven, or as the way, the truth, and the life, he is showing us that he is the physical revelation of a spiritual reality. There is no separation. He wasn't sometimes the Son of Man and sometimes the Son of God. He is the Word become flesh. His spiritual life and physical everyday life were one. That is the kind of worshipper the Father seeks. Now, to help us understand what a true worshipper looks like, and to be certain that we are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks, I believe we need to study John chapter 15. In this series on true worshippers, we will be studying John chapter 15 verses 1 to 17. But I believe the key verse is verse 8, where it says, "This is to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples." In other words, Jesus is saying God is glorified, exalted, and worshipped by the fruit we bear that reveals we are of God and living for God. The Father is looking for true worshippers who bear fruit that glorify him. Let's not separate our spiritual lives from our physical everyday lives, but let us live our lives as true worshippers who live in spirit and in truth. Let's learn from Jesus how we can be the kind of worshippers the Father seeks, and what the fruit is that he wants us to bear, fruit that glorifies the Father and reveals that we belong to him. God bless you.